Welcome to the podcast, Let the Prophet Speak. This is Saul Weinreb, the host of the podcast, and we are continuing our study of the second book of Samuel, that is Shmuel Bet, chapter 20. We are up to verse 15, that's Pasuk Tet Vav. We have just learned that Yoav, leading David's troops, together with Avishai, are chasing the rebel Sheva and Bichri to get rid of him, presumably to execute him, and they finally, after traveling all around, they cornered him in Aveilah, in this town. So Vayavo, and they came Vayatsuru alav, and they besieged him, him Sheva and Bichri, and presumably whatever supporters were with him. Aveilah, in the town of Aveilah, Beit HaMa'acha, which was in the area, the region of Beit HaMa'acha. Vayishpechu solelo el ha'ir, and they poured a siege ramp around the city. So presumably the city was a walled city, so they started building siege works, ramps up the walls. Vata'amod bachel, and it stood against the ramparts of the wall. So they're on the verge of breaching the city's defenses, and presumably when that happens, once they breach the defenses of the city, there will be a significant battle and a lot of death and destruction. And all of the people that were with Yoav were working on battering down the wall. So we have this siege. The people within the wall are now, obviously, for good reason, deathly afraid that Yoav is known for his viciousness, as we've seen on many occasions. Yoav is not going to make it easy on the people of the town once he breaks in. So somebody's got to do something, or there could be a major disaster. And here we have a wise woman from the city calls out, "Shimu, Shimu." Interestingly, it was Yoav that called the wise woman of Tekoa to come speak to David, to recognize that he should try to reconcile with Avshalom. That was a while back. How things have changed since then. But here again, it is a wise woman who is going to step up and save the city from destruction. Shimu, Shimu, listen. Imruna el Yoav, please tell Yoav, Kiravad heina va'adabra elecha. Come here. One imagines that she was standing on top of the wall, observing this onslaught that's ongoing, that's happening below her, and she says, please send Yoav this message. Tell him to come here so that I can speak with him directly. Vayikrav Eilah, he came to her. Vatomer ha'isha, and the woman said, Ha'ata Yoav, are you Yoav? Vayomer ani, and he said, yes, I am Yoav. Vatomer lo, and she said to him, Shema divrei amasecha, listen to the words of your servant. Vayomer shomea anochi, and he said, I am listening. Vatomer lemar. And she said as follows. She continued to say as follows. Daberi dabru varishona lemar. In the varishona, in the old days, people used to always say the following saying: Sha'ol yishoalu be'avel v'chein heitamu. This was a saying that people would always say about the people of Avel. All you need to do is ask in Avel, in the city of Avel, or the city of Avel, and that was enough. In other words, they always kept the word. You asked them, they answered, that's it. That's the old saying people always said. In other words, the people of Avel are trustworthy, they are honest, and they keep their word. That's the city that you are. So in other words, you can listen to me. If we agree to do something, we'll do it. Anochi shalumei emunei Yisrael. I am one of those who is shlumei, who is Shlume is I am completely devoted, right? right, to the faithful people of Israel, to the faithful of Israel. I am completely devoted to them. So the people of Aveilah are the epitome of those that are the faithful of Israel because we keep our word. And I am one of those who seeks their peace. Anochi shlumei emunei Yisrael. Atah mivakesh lahamit ir. You are trying to kill and wipe out a city. I'm sorry, lahamit ir va'em b'Yisrael, a city which is a city and a mother in Israel. Comparing a city to a mother that takes care of her children. Lama tivala nachalat Adonai. Why should you destroy and swallow up the inheritance of God? The cities, these are the cities that give birth to Israel, that give birth to the people, right? The people that are trustworthy and faithful among Israel, these are the people you want to protect, not the people you want to destroy. I am one of those who's looking out to protect, while she just said in the previous years, well, but you, mivakesh lahamis, you are trying to kill. So, Vayan Yoav vayamar chalila chalila li im avala ve'im ashchis. Yoav understood right away, here he is in the wrath and the anger of battle, he's about to slaughter a town. And he said, no, God forbid, no, far be it from me to be the one that if I should ever try to destroy and I should ever try to wreck. That is not what's happening here. Ki ish mihar Ephraim Sheva ben Bichri shemo. There is a man who's making the destruction. It is that rebel, that guy from Har Ephraim, Sheva ben Bichri. That's his name. Nasaya do b'melech David. He rebelled against the king David. Tinu oso levado. He's the only one we want. Give him to us. V'elchome al ha'ir, and I will leave the city. V'tomer Isha el Yoav, and the woman said to Yoav, Hinei rosho mushlach elecha ba'ad hachama. I will throw his head over the wall onto your side of the wall. I will make sure that happens. The woman came to the town in her wisdom and said, Vayichursu et rosh Sheva ben Bichri. They brought Sheva ben Bichri in, they beheaded him, Vayashlichu el Yoav, and they threw his head over the wall. Vayitka b'shofar, and Yoav then blew the shofar, which was a sign, as we've seen several times, the blowing of the shofar was a sign that the battle is over. The army can withdraw. Vayafutzume al ha'ir ish lo, and everyone that was camped upon the city went home, back to their home. The battle was done. V'Yoav shov Yerushalayim el HaMelech, and Yoav returned to Jerusalem to the king. At this point, we don't have any word here of the reaction of David to Yoav's killing of Amasa, but one knows for sure, and also the fact that Yoav led this charge while he wasn't told by David to lead the charge. Avishai was told by David to lead the charge. So, but we don't hear from this. One can only imagine what David is thinking. Yoav el kol tzava Yisrael, and Yoav was commander of the entire army of Israel. Uvenayah ben Yehoyada al hakresi v'al haplesi. Benayah ben Yehoyada was the commander of the elite troops, the elite guard, the kreti and the pleti. The Adoram al Hamas. There was a man named Adoram who was in charge of the treasury, literally the tax collections. Yoshafat ben Achilud Hamazkir. Yoshafat ben Achilud was in charge of keeping the records, the royal records, possibly just referring to the treasury records. Usheva Sofer, and Sheva was the scribe. Presumably that's the one that writes the chronicles, the royal chronicles. V'tzadok v'yavatzar kohanim, and Tzadok and Eviatar, as we have seen before, were the priests. V'gam ira haya'iri hayachoin leDavid, and there was another priest who was also named Ira haya'iri, who was another priest who also served David. So we have finally the last of the rebellions against David. The last of the enemies that came to challenge David's rule was Sheva ben Bichri, and we learned today of how he came to his end, and now the kingdom is united, and at least for the duration of David's kingdom, that's the end of the internal rebellions that we will find. And so we had the issues between Saul and David before David became king. Then we had Ishbosheth and David, and Absalom against David, Sheva ben Bichri. This is the end of those challenges to his rule. His rule is now established, and we mentioned all the officers, giving us the impression that he had his administration in place, and he went on to rule until the events which we're going to read of, which are referencing the end of his career. But before we get to the end of his career and passing, and David's passing, we are going to mention a few stories in the next chapter that occurred at various times during David's career. This is not what we're about to read in chapter 21 is not necessarily a chronological accounting. It's just mentioning some stories that had happened. And we will get to them next when we study 21. Thank you for studying chapter 20. Looking forward to studying chapter 21 and the rest of this book of Samuel together. Have a wonderful day.